Hi everyone, welcome back to Ilum Sabers. Today we have a video that I've been especially looking forward to. So without too much, let's get into this. This video, as you can tell by the title and thumbnail, I'm sure is going to be a comparison between what are currently considered the two most accurate Anakin Revenge of the Sith lightsabers on the market. So that's going to be the Aniflex V2 by 7Chambers and also by 7Chambers, the Aniflex Elite. So we're going to go over these and go over some of the differences, what, if any, accuracy differences exist, that kind of stuff. So right off the bat here, we've got the box. The boxes are pretty much the same size and shape. There is one major difference, just looking at them. If you saw one out in the wild, would tell you right away which one was which. If you look at the top covers here of the box, you'll notice that this one says Aniflex Elite. This one just has Aniflex. Looking at the logos a little closer, this one looks a little more dirty, a little more weathered, which is on purpose. It's like on the print. And then this one looks just a little more clean. We've got all the same information on here. It says saber equipment of proven quality, faraway made, combat winning sabers since 2016. Right here you've got a little Japor snippet. You've got Aniflex. This one says Elite, the other one doesn't, of course. Light synchronizer, manufactured by 7Chambers, Norfolk, England. And this is kind of meant to be very reminiscent of the Graflex box logo. So once you open the box of the Aniflex V2, you've pretty much just got the saber. So I'm gonna go ahead and postpone getting into the V2 saber because when you open the box of the Elite, you've got something to deal with before the saber itself. And that is gonna be the stand with a plaque here that says Aniflex Elite. It's got 7Chambers, Norfolk, England, UK. It comes with the pegs that go in here that will hold the saber. You've got this nice stand. It's pretty heavy, so you've got that sitting right on top when you open. I'll set that aside. And the next thing that you've got is gonna be the hilt, and it is in a microfiber cloth bag. Here's the hilt in the bag. Aniflex Elite, and it's got all the information on there. Again, it's got their logo. So once you open this bag, you will have the hilt. So I'll go ahead and get into that here with the Aniflex V2. All right, so I've got both of the hilts out. Right off the bat, here's what we've got. So you'll probably be hard pressed to tell which is which just from this. I can go ahead and say this one here is the Aniflex V2. This is installed. This belongs to a friend of mine. He sent it to me so that I could go ahead and do this comparison. This is the Aniflex Elite. This one is empty. So just looking at both of them side by side, there are a few differences. The first thing I notice is that the V2 weighs more, and that's just because it's installed. They are both very heavy. So the Elite and the V2, to my knowledge, are both chrome plated brass, which means they are very heavy. Right off the bat, one difference with the two of them is that the V2 is going to be plated with hard chrome, and the Elite is going to be plated with decorative chrome. And so decorative chrome is going to be prone to a lot more sort of micro surface scratches, just because it's not as robust and durable as hard chrome. The difference there is that the V2 with the hard chrome is not going to be quite as shiny and reflective as the Elite. It's still going to be very shiny, mirror finish. You know, most of the hilts that you can purchase that are chromed do use hard chrome just for durability's sake. So if you have a chromed hilt, you probably know what hard chrome looks like. It's not like it's dull or anything like that. But the decorative chrome, when you look at it side by side with the hard chrome, you can tell it's got a little bit more depth in the sort of shine that it has. But certainly this is the V2, and certainly it has no lack of shine. This particular V2 hilt has got a variety of Anakin and Vader fonts. It's a one-button setup. Something probably that's worth noting is that a lot of times you'll see Anakin sabers will use the control box here or maybe here to act as the switch component. This hilt is not made to utilize anything in here. It is actually designed to utilize these two greeblies here as buttons. This one and this one. This particular install by Tony at Ronin Sabers used a one button setup, so the rear button is going to be the only one that does anything on this particular install of this hilt. If you were to buy one, you could set it up to do a 1 button back here, 1 button up here, or a 2 button. So whatever you want. Another thing right off the bat that we've got that's going to be different is the V2, and this was pretty well known for the V2 at the time. The V2 blade holder here actually has a little bit of a wobble to it. Let's see if I can move it closer to the microphone, maybe you'll hear it. Right, so when you've got a blade in, it moves around a little bit. Nothing major, you know, it's certainly not like loose, it's not gonna fall out or anything like that. That was something that was fixed on the Elite. I haven't noticed that on the empty Elite that I have here, but it's certainly a lot more noticeable with the V2 when you have a blade in. Going sort of from top to bottom. All right, so this one is the V2 and this one is the Elite. So they look pretty similar. I should note that there is a pin missing here. It just came loose during transit, so it's in the box. I just haven't gotten to put it in yet. I'm not sure whether or not the V2 came with a blade plug. This one does not have one. The Elite does have a blade plug. Overall, looking at this here, they look pretty much the same. The black underneath the sort of silver blade holder ring near the top is matte on both of them, although the V2 seems to be a little bit more of a matte finish. This one seems to be maybe sort of like a satin or a semi-gloss or something like that. They're both very thick. All the way around, the metal is very, very thick. On both of them, you've got sort of a splatter paint kind of pattern on the button. I'll see if I can't get that to show. You can see parts of the copper are sort of a lighter copper color and parts of it are darker, sort of to give the appearance of age. And they're both like that. And the rear buttons have that sort of effect as well. From sort of a side profile, everything pretty much looks the same. Most of the components look identical, really. You've got chrome all the way throughout, and that's one of the big things for the Aniflex. The Aniflex was the first one, I believe, and so far the only one with, you know, a high level of accuracy to replicate the chrome finish that is throughout the entire hilt. So you can actually get a really good look of this during the scene on Mustafar when Obi-Wan picks up Anakin's hilt after their duel has finished. The hilt is laying sort of on the ground and you can see that the entire thing is chrome. Whereas the Master Replica's hilt, and then a lot of hilts that have used the Master Replicas as sort of a base for design, have chrome on the upper portion and chrome on the lower portion, but then this middle part here is like a brushed aluminum, so it's not chromed throughout. I had always heard that Master Replicas did that because they had based their static version of their prop replica off of several different props instead of just one, so there may have been a version of the prop that had sort of brushed aluminum here, but for the most part, the hero that you see generally is full chrome, and so that's what this is. You can see that. All right, so kind of moving down a little bit more, or I guess kind of staying in the same area. On the clamp, one difference that I'm noticing, and it's, again, difficult to tell, you know, any differences between these at all. But one difference that I've noticed is the control box, which really isn't a control box on this one, but doesn't control anything. But the black sort of etched, you know, the etching with the black paint in it or whatever that material is a little thicker. The lines are a little thicker on this one. So through here, that black is a little thicker than on the Elite. The V2's got a little bit more sort of, I don't know, thickness, or it's a little darker. I'll see if I can get that kind of close up in the camera here. Yeah, that's a decent representation of it. So the Elite right here, it's just a little lighter, a little thinner. So I don't know if that was an accuracy upgrade or just something that was different about the run of the Elites from the V2s. It's hard to say. Another difference that I'm noticing in these two hilts that I'm holding, and I don't think this has anything to do with accuracy, I think this is just whoever put the grips on. On this one, the grips go all the way to the bottom of the hilt, and on this one, the grips stop a little bit from the bottom. And I'm not sure, I believe stopping a little bit from the bottom is more accurate. That's what I've generally seen. So I did take a look. From the best I can tell, it is more accurate to have the grips be just, you know, a hair off of the end here, as opposed to all the way to the end. But you know, the scenes that it appears in are quick, and most of the screenshots are sort of blurry. But the main one that I was looking at was the one of Mustafar when Obi-Wan takes Anakin's lightsaber after he beats him. It looks like the metallic portion of the hilt continues on past the grips just a little bit. So it seems like the grips on the Elite are a little more accurate. However, I know that the grips on the V2 did not come assembled, so this was probably just like done by a user. So they could easily be taken off and replaced. Moving on, the pommels on them are another difference here. So the Elite has this vented pommel, or sorry, the V2 has this vented pommel. The Elite comes with two different pommels. The Elite comes with this static pommel, and then it also comes with a vented pommel, but the vented pommel is actually a bit different from the vented pommel on the V2. So I don't have the vented pommel of the Elite currently attached, but I pulled it out. This is what it looks like. So it's got sort of a, kind of looks like the Death Star paneling a little bit, sort of inspired by that. Whereas this has just got a couple of slots. So that's kind of the difference. Not really an important difference. I wouldn't imagine that either would vent sound any better, but there is a difference there nonetheless. So I just thought that was worth noting. Moving on, it is also worth noting that if you purchase an Aniflex Elite new, of course right now they're sold out, but they did originally come with the grips attached. That was something that they changed from the V2 run, so the V2s did not come with grips attached. The Elites did. Now the Elites do not come with the grips attached, so you, the user, will have to either attach or find someone to attach them for you. Right now they are sold out. I don't know if they plan on, you know, putting a restock on the website or not. I believe they're going towards a RTS or ready to sell model as opposed to doing pre-orders. So once they get the current batch of pre-orders finished up, they may or may not open up a batch of ready to sell Aniflexes. But my guess is if they do and you purchase one, they probably will not come with the grips installed. So that will be something you'll have to do. Probably it also will not come with the pins installed. So that will also be something you have to do. Generally, it's not a big task. Just make sure that you use something that's soft, because like long nose pliers will scratch them up just because they're brass, so they're soft. So you could use maybe like some tweezers that you maybe put a little electrical tape around, just to sort of make them a little softer, something of that nature. But looking at them again here, I don't really see any big differences. Like I said, these hilts are almost identical. If they didn't come in different boxes, it would be tough to tell them apart. The grips are, they look to me at least to be pretty much the same grips. The V2 grips do seem to be a little reflective, whereas the Elite grips seem to be more of a matte. So that actually is something interesting. That is a difference. Another difference is going to be the CoverTech clip. So the CoverTech wheel on the Elite looks like this. The one in the V2 looks like this. So if you can tell, the hole where the screw goes on the V2 is a little smaller, and the screw head itself is smaller. So a little more of a flat surface, and it also is more of a matte color on this V2, whereas this CoverTech is a bit more of a gloss, or maybe a semi-gloss sort of finish to that. They both have pretty much the same chromed finish throughout. They both have pretty much the same greeblies. The paint on the copper buttons is maybe a little bit different. I don't know if the paint pattern is supposed to be the same on every, so like if every Elite has the same sort of splotched pattern of paint, or if they're all a little bit different. But the pattern is a little different. I don't know if I can really show that on the camera because it's very subtle, but what I'm seeing here are different patterns. But again, if you weren't looking at it this closely, you wouldn't have any reason to notice that. Let's see here. The clam cards are both pretty much the same, other than I said that the black was a little bit deeper and darker on the V2, but the brass itself is the same color brass. This little lever here, this gold, is pretty much the same gold colored finish on both of them. They do both unscrew here, so this is pretty much how your chassis solution is gonna go. So this is the V2, this one is the one that's installed, but the Elite does also unscrew in the middle like this. There are a lot of threads here, so I appreciate that. It's very well made. All right, so you can go ahead, once you get it unscrewed, which again, that's a lot of threads, pull it up and you've got your chassis there. You've got your battery with your kill switch, and you've got your Profi in the back, you've got your speaker, and then you have a small set screw right there that's hidden, of course, under the threads when it's screwed in, and that is what holds your chassis in place. So you go ahead and put that back in, screw it all the way down. I believe that there were some additional changes to the V3 internally. So if you're going to install the V3, a V2 chassis isn't going to fit. There are just some differences, and I believe that was to accommodate things like crystal chambers and stuff like that. Of course, a V2 crystal chamber could absolutely be made, but I think they gave it a little bit more room. And I think the 7Chambers is also, they recently said that they were still working on their Aniflex Elite crystal chamber. So they're planning on coming out with a crystal chamber for the Aniflex Elite. And now that their Aniflex Elites are pretty much all sold, I think that they're moving on to sort of the crystal chamber. So hopefully that doesn't take too long, because I know a lot of people are anxiously awaiting to get their Aniflex Elites installed, or have already done so. So the sooner they come out with that crystal chamber, the better it will probably sell. So I think that will be a good addition to anybody who still has an empty that they want to install. But looking at both of these, they're both quality. I mean, if you have one of them, you probably don't need the other one unless you just are a 7Chambers fan and you want to collect, you know, all of their stuff. There's also an Aniflex V1, which is very similar to both of these. There were, I think, the V1 and the V2 were pretty much the same, just with some cosmetic changes on the outside for accuracy differences, but they're pretty much the same hilt, I think, spec-wise. So I think you could install, I think the chassis would both be compatible between both of them, but I'm not sure about that. For the Elite, the outside looks pretty much the same, but I believe, like I said, the inside is what's a little bit different. So you'll have to do a little research on what some of those differences are in order to get a chassis that fits. So just look for an Aniflex Elite chassis if you're looking for that. I think that's pretty much everything. Just to sort of briefly go over it again, the main differences that I saw, pretty much no finish differences. The clamp card was one difference that I noticed. The actual chrome itself was a second difference, although, like I said, I'll hold these up again here, it's not something that you can really tell side by side, I don't think. Maybe a little bit, but I think that the chrome on the V2 looks just as good as the chrome on the V3, or on the Elite. So not really a big deal there. The third difference is going to be the internal specs are a little bit different. The Elite comes with a couple extra accessories. So you've got a stand, you've got the microfiber cloth bag that it comes in. The Elite that I have came with a blade plug. I'm not sure if the V2 comes with a blade plug or not. The one that my friend sent me to review did not come with a blade plug, but it may come with a blade plug, and this one just didn't have one included. When I got it to review, I'm not really sure. The V2 has an issue documented where the blade holder wiggles. The Elite has supposedly had that fixed. The grips on the Elite are more of a matte finish. The grips on the V2 are a bit of a glossier rubber. I think the glossy rubber kind of looks accurate to the Mustafar scene. So I don't know if, you know, the matte grips are an accuracy upgrade, maybe to a different scene, maybe to that scene, maybe they actually had one of the props on hand. I'm not really sure. Something that you want to make sure, you know, when you are installing your grips on your Aniflex is you want to make sure you have the orientation of the grips right. So you're going to want to have this grip facing this button here. You're going to want to have these two grips on either side of the control box. You're going to want to have the rear grip facing the rear button, and then you're going to want to have these two on either side of the cover tech. So the grip orientation is pretty important, especially for accuracy's sake. On the Elite, there is not a good way to screw down your cover tech without the grips moving. So you're going to need to get some sort of spacer for that, just to keep them from, when you screw down the cover tech, the grips kind of want to part a little bit because it clamps down on them. But yeah, other than that, I think, the cover techs themselves were also different, of course, and then of course you had some differences in the box and maybe some differences in the finish of the painted buttons, but overall, like I said, these hilts are identical. The differences are very minute. It's not like comparing an Aniflex to an 89 Sabers or something like that, where you've got a lot more noticeable differences. That would be a fun comparison to do. Off the top of my head, some of the differences are that the 89 Sabers doesn't have the sort of painted buttons. It has just a straight up copper color. It's got the brushed aluminum clamp instead of the chrome clamp. I think it has grips that are a little bit shorter. And then of course it's got an entirely different way of disassembly as well. So there are definitely some differences there. The differences between these two, once again, are really minimal. It's hard to decipher any at all. It's almost like comparing two of the same hilt. So if you are in the market for an Anakin Saber and you come across either of these, because at this point both of them are kind of rare, I would honestly heavily consider either of them. The V2 I think is pretty much just as good as the Elite. The only thing you're going to have to concern yourself with if you get a V2 is you're going to want to remember that the blade plug does have a tendency to wiggle a little bit. Something you can do to combat that, I saw a lot of people in some of the forums saying that they would actually take this piece out and putting a little bit of tape to sort of take up space just to keep it from wiggling. And that might be an easy fix. So, like I said, it's a great hilt, it's manufactured well, it's good quality. They're both very heavy, they're both full brass. So if you have any experience with like holding a Savi's Workshop lightsaber, very similar to that. And holding them side by side, I think the Aniflex is a little heavier. Maybe not. This one's a lot wider for sure. The Savi's may be heavier than the Aniflex, but it's very close. I mean, the Aniflex is solid brass, so it's a very good quality hilt. I would say that the V2 and the Elite are pretty much equal once again. The only reason I think to get the Elite over the V2 would be if you wanted to get the stand. Maybe you don't want to have to worry about the blade holder. But as far as accuracy goes, especially if you're going to get it to be like a static display, it really doesn't matter. They're both equally accurate. Maybe the only other reason would be a static pommel. Your Elite would come with a static pommel, but again, for most people, that's not a huge deal breaker either way. So I hope that this video has kind of helped some of you be able to discern the differences between these two really similar hilts. They're both good quality. They're both great Anakin hilts for even the most discerning and biggest Anakin fans out there. If you are interested in an Anakin hilt, both of these would be great options. So I hope this video helped you guys, and I will see you in the next one.